Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. We are back. We've got brackets. We've got new content on Disney Plus. We've got news, and I'm here with my friends JD and David to talk to you all about it. What is up, fellas?
Hey.
Hey, Dustin. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How is your March? We're now officially in spring. How is your March treating you? How's your NCAA brackets looking? Generally, how is life for you guys?
It's going pretty good. Been watching March Madness like crazy. Love it. Love this time of year. My Tar Heels are going strong. Crazy game. Beat the number 1 seed Baylor. Florida, it's been really nice. We just got done with our spring break. We had some family come in. We actually had a trip to Universal for one day. Changed things up, so that was fun. So it's been a good month.
That's awesome. Tell me about your Universal trip real quick. We don't ever talk about those guys.
Man, it was fun. I've only gone a handful of times. So we actually went to Islands of Adventure. And you got to remember, this is spring break, so this was like peak crowds. So didn't get to do a ton of rides. I think we only did 4 or 5. I think we did 5 rides total. But it was really fun. Love Harry Potter. Everything they do with Harry Potter is so great. Got to do the new rides, Hagrid's new roller coaster, which was incredible. It was a really fun time with a lot of different turns. And again, I didn't watch any videos about it, so everything it did was like, wow, this is cool. Did also this new roller coaster called the Velocicoaster. And they lock you in by your legs, literally, but you shoot in the air and you're flipping all around, so your whole torso is just flying all around. It was really fun. Really fun.
So I'm going in 2 weeks. I'm going
You've got to do
in 2
it.
weeks.
Oh, really? Well, you've got to do it. Velocicoaster, best roller coaster I've probably ever ridden.
Okay, I don't want to hijack it. This is why I love Disney, but I do need to know, what about the food? Did you have any great food options there?
So we got to do the butterbeer, which was great. It's been a long time since I've had it.
Did you do a hot, cold, or frozen?
Did frozen, which I would recommend. Okay. I liked it a lot. I don't think I've ever had the hot one, so maybe I'm biased. But, I got to do that. And so we were with 2 other friends who actually went to our high school who came to South Florida to hang out with us. And we were looking at some of the restaurants and things, and we ate at this Harry Potter restaurant, and we were looking at the prices, and we decided to do this. They offer this menu option called the Great Feast, which I had never heard of. But you literally get this platter of like ribs, chicken. They bring you this whole like pot of salad, corn, like these big corns on the cob, and it was just a ton of food. But we literally did the math, and for 4 people, I think it was like $70. It was cheaper to get this great feast and all get butter beers, and it was really cool. And it was almost more of an experience because they brought it to you, Lynn, to all individually get our own thing. So definitely would recommend that.
Is that the 3 broomsticks in Hogsmeade area? Is that the one? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's it.
Because there's the other one is in Diagon Alley. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did Islands of Adventure. So we only got to do Hogsmeade, but we also got to ride the ride in the castle, the Forbidden Journey, it's almost nostalgic at this point because I did it, 5-6 years ago. So it was fun. It was really fun. It was definitely really crowded. But because I don't get to go to Universal a lot, I was really just happy to be there, happy to be with friends. So I was happy just to wait in lines and talk and drink butterbeer and just be there. It was fun.
That's awesome.
Hey, one thing, Dustin, they were going to go to Disney, but there were no reservations. They couldn't get in.
Yeah. So we're annual pass holders. Yeah, we're annual pass holders. So me and McKay can go whenever. So we actually will be able to book. We booked it out like a couple of weeks ago, and then tried to buy the tickets for our friends a week or 2 prior. And it just happened to be the most unlucky timing that the exact day that we wanted to go with them, it was completely sold out for every park for that day, the day before that, and the day after that. So it was like, there's no way we can make it work. Okay.
When did you try to book it? Was it the day before? Like how far in advance was it booked out?
It was a solid week, maybe even a week a half beforehand, which again, I should have known better and been looking at it. But because they've been increasing attendance and more people being allowed to come, I haven't seen it sell out like that in a really long time since like peak COVID times when they were really only letting 30% people come in. So it was definitely discouraging. So we were really happy when we were able to go to Universal because our friends really wanted to get an amusement park in.
Right. Hey, were all 4 parks? I mean, closed, like Animal Kingdom, Epcot, both of those were shut out too?
Yeah, completely shut out.
A lot of times they have availability when Hollywood and Magic Kingdom are closed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they were open to do Animal Kingdom. So I watched it and was even like, I even looked at it the morning of just out of curiosity because sometimes they will add, tickets because people will cancel or for whatever reason. And it literally never opened up for that whole 3-day span that we were open to going.
It's wild to me that, and I get we're post COVID and all those things, but it's wild to me that a person wants to go to a Disney park and can't go.
Yeah.
A week and a half in advance. Like it's too like there's too many people. To me is just, on one hand, it could be a great planning mechanism and a better, like they said, a better park experience and helps them plan better. On the other hand, you had friends that traveled to Florida from Tennessee to hang out and do a bunch of other things. It wasn't just to go to Disney, but would have liked to have gone who couldn't go. This is a new thing, right? This is a completely new phenomenon. I've never heard, other than maybe, New Year's Eve or some crazy holiday where they're turning people away, right, in advance, and they won't let you go in. I think this is still something that's developing and something that could cause them problems. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely hard. I mean, again, you just like what you're saying, Destin, we would have had meals there at the parks. We would have probably gone to downtown Disney. We would have done all these things, spending our money, and they're turning that away. So it is a confusing thing. Dad, what do you think about it?
Well, I can't really figure out how it creates a better experience because no matter when you go, it's so crowded. It's like it's always crowded. The last couple of times I've been there, it just seems like it's more crowded than ever. So they're turning people away, but it's still packed. And
is this the first time as a season pass holder, JD, that you haven't been able to go when you wanted to?
I wouldn't say the first. We started our annual pass September of 2021. So there were some holiday things there, but definitely a week and a half out, annual pass stuff, at least for one park, becomes available. Again, we've been able to check the night before and then just squeeze in there and make that final cut. It's definitely been a really long time since I've seen just literally it never become available. But it kind of worked out because I got to go to Universal. It was a good time. Universal wasn't a perfect experience. It was very crowded. Again, having to wait really long times. I got on the phone with a associate or calling about something because I was curious about their express ticket option. I was like, okay, so Genie Plus, it's $30. They have a completely different system. I'm not even really sure how it works, but literally they were selling their express tickets for $300 a day, and then they sold out.
It's fluctuating. I have I've got group tickets for our group, and I checked the days we're there. I can buy what they call Express Pass or something like that, an Express Pass Plus, and it's like $79.
Yeah.
For one day, and it is, you have to schedule it kind of in advance and those sorts of things. So I imagine as it gets closer and the parks get crowded, that they do say that price can fluctuate.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. She walked me through that, and she was like, well, normally if you go at more. So when are you going? Are you going in April?
April, first week of April. Yes.
Okay. Because she was saying April and May is when it starts to die down a little more, and it's more of a less crowded than that March, of course, which is more spring break. But she was like, yeah, it fluctuates more around $70 to $100 on a more chilled out period. But again, she's saying before they sold out, they were selling it for $300.
That's insane.
People were paying
for
$300. God, it's like, wow.
One park, one day.
Wow. That is just wow. But we enjoyed it. We enjoyed the time.
I can't get over another $80 per ticket. Does that make sense? Like, doubling the cost, and it's just man, you get a family of 6, you start thinking about one day, not the whole trip, not all 5 days, but like one day. It's amazing.
Yeah. If you pay for that, you really want to know that you're going to do everything in one day or you could have paid for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
You could, you're
Sure.
they're still getting the price out of you for that second day. If you only, like JD, if you're only there one day, it's amazing.
Well, I'm thrilled that you got
the first time I went where they had Express Pass, I was in Florida with John David's sister on a school trip, and we went, and I bought the pass because her favorite thing was by far the Harry Potter. And when I went, Harry Potter was excluded. Like, we didn't know it. We bought the passes.
Wow.
And then it didn't count for Hogwarts. Forbidden Journey. We still had to stand in the lines, and I just wasted my money because she wanted to stay. We had the day, and she wanted to be there for all the Hogwarts stuff, and none of it counted.
Now,
I guess
here's an
changed
interesting thing. So the last time I was at Universal Studios, we were artists that day for a festival, and we got a VIP tour. So they assigned us a person who walked us through. It never stood in a line. You go right to the front. You get on the ride. I mean, we did everything in half a day because we had to play in the second half of the day, and it was the best experience. Like, I had my oldest was 2 years old at the time, and they actually at one point he was too little to do most of the rides. So the lady was like, "Hey, let me see if I can set something up." So we went over to the Spider-Man ride, right? And he could go through the line but couldn't get on it. He was still too small. So at the end, she set up Spider-Man, a meet and greet, where he was at the exit waiting on Wyatt. He calls him by name, and we have pictures of him posing with it. It was the coolest moment.
So
Wyatt
cool.
he was 2 and he's now 13, and he still like talks about that. Like, he remembers, what he said to him. And I know you're Peter Parker. He's like, "Shh, don't tell anybody." They had this little exchange, but they really made it special. The reason I bring that up is when I was looking through Express Passes, they have a VIP experience too. That's, if I remember, when I go, it was like $250 a person for your group, right? So it's cheaper than the $300 for your express to actually have a person take you around the back lots and walk you to the front of the ride. That would be, and see, that didn't to me feel like outrageous. Disney has an experience like that I think is thousands of dollars, right?
Right.
See, if I were going to spend 80, you know what I mean? I would consider spending $250 for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It probably sells out pretty quick. I mean, I can't. Yeah. I mean, that's true. Wow.
Is that still the price for the tour at Universal? Is it still that low?
Now, I just checked, and it might fluctuate, kind of like the Express Pass. I don't know, but it was it was under $300. There was a 2 was the first number.
Well, there you go. That'd be the way to do it then.
But it's still $300 extra per person.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not dirt cheap. But I mean,
if you're a family of 6, I mean, that is so expensive.
Well, and I'll remember specifically, the Harry Potter ride, what is it called? Forbidden Journey. I mean, you had to go through the line to experience the whole thing, but we walked right past everyone, right up to the front. Rode it. Then we went to the cool thing was we went to the Oleander's wand store, which that line for that is always so hard to do, and you're just going to see a little thing and be able to buy a wand, right? We walked right in. It was a great experience. But about in 6 hours, we did everything in both parks.
Wow. And you said, so you got invited to do a gig there, like you were singing there, or what?
Yeah, Rock the Universe. It actually still goes on. We actually, back in this is a long time ago, different band even. We were on the stage with Casting Crowns, Red, and Reliant K, and my band. So
that's cool.
That was kind of that was the peak of kind of what we did.
Yeah. From
there, we're kind of on to other things. We do worship music now.
Insider trick: if you want free tickets to the parks, sing for them, and you get to ride everything.
Dude, I would honestly. So if I weren't could set it up, I would do those things for free. For the experience of all of that. There was separate food for us that was free. Like, it was amazing. Like
That's
amazing.
That's incredible.
If we ever do it, I'll have to bring you guys in. You have to be like backup singers or something.
Oh,
like
for sure.
that.
I can play a tambourine or the triangle. I can hum along.
Cowbell.
We'll get the rider and be like, "There's 37 people in our band." You know.
Yeah.
So
It'll be a whole
anyhow,
choir.
that's super cool. But I think we love Disney, right? We really, but we like theme parks, and I love hearing about these experiences. And they're working on it. Did you see any construction for the new park they're building?
I actually didn't, and I was looking out for it. I didn't. I don't really know where to look, but I never saw anything. Is it that close, Dad? Do you guys know anything about where it's going to be?
I've seen a map, but I really don't know. I don't know if it's something you'll be able to see.
2025, right?
I think so. So you think there's already got land cleared, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but we'll see. That's going to be exciting to see how that develops too. But yeah, that's super cool to hear about that experience. I'm excited about going. I'm sure we'll talk about it more. But Disney news, I think to relate it to that, just the park attendance and kind of the post-COVID implementations and things they're doing are really interesting to see how that plays out. It's really curious to hear about your experience there, JD. But Disney's been all in the news for all sorts of reasons. There's employees not too happy. There's some political stuff going on. And I don't want to get into all that, but if you're a Disney fan and you've watched the news, you've seen all of this, I just want to say that on this podcast, the last thing we would ever want to do that would make us happy or be interesting is for us to start talking about politics and get into these issues. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with it.
That being said and stated, I think it's actually for the casual, normal Disney fan, I think it's something that they should listen to feedback, that this is not something we want to see them in the news for. We don't want them making political statements. We don't want them, taking sides, and they just. I miss just do what you do and do well. Encourage, bring people hope, be a beacon of light. They did so good, I thought, through the pandemic about kind of threading the needle and being careful and keeping people safe, yet taking care of their employees and workers and trying to be a great community member, both in Los Angeles and in Orlando and Shanghai and Paris and everywhere else. And I thought they were kind of beacons of a great example to follow in this for all of us. And I would love to see this too continue. Anybody can say anything for whatever reason as individuals, but as a corporation, when you start making guys like us in a Why I Love Disney podcast have to start commenting on it, because if we don't, that I think that could end up being a problem for them. What do you got? I don't want you guys to weigh in, more than you are comfortable with, but what do you guys think? Tell us exactly what you think about this issue. All the detail you can.
Destin, you really said it well, man. It's like it's hard to talk about politics. It's hard to talk about things like that when, fear of not being educated enough, not really knowing everything. You don't want to say anything in absolute and things such as that. But the thing is, for me, it's like I love Disney. Disney represents so much for so many people, of a home away from home, a no judgment zone of happiness and an escape. So Disney just needs to protect that. I mean, that's a valuable thing that not a lot of companies can say they have. So I would, again, just like you said, Dustin, I would encourage Disney to stay out of politics as much as they can.
I agree with you guys. That's not why I love Disney. That's not why we started this podcast, is to focus on what we do love. And, anytime somebody finds out that you're a fan of something, they want to bring up, oh, what about this and this? And it's like, there are always some things that, you wish weren't a certain way, or that you weren't having to deal with those things. I just kind of keep focusing on what I like. And there's enough great content and enough great history that I'm not going to get caught up in the little things of the moment. I'm going to keep my sights on what I do love.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to do.
I agree with that. I agree with that sentiment completely. Which brings us to, there's more Disney news coming with Disney Plus. we'll start with, before we get into, we want to talk about Turning Red here in a second. But before we do, we logged on this week, and we got met with a notice that, hey, you need to put a PIN code on it or set your account for mature audiences, because there's now content on there apparently, or there is, that you probably wouldn't want your kids to see. We talked a little bit about how we felt about that in the last episode. But have you changed your settings yet, guys?
Yeah, I think we have. I think so. Yeah, it's an interesting format. I thought they would kind of just exactly comment or copy Netflix, where you just have a code or you don't have a code, and anytime you want to watch something, you put that code in. But it seems like Disney is more just like, you do have the access or you don't. So as long as you get on the profile, you can watch whatever, and there's no code there. You're free to watch whatever you want. So it's an interesting system. They have different levels. I think it's like R, MA, TV 14. So it's not like you have to be all the way, which I like that. You didn't have to be all the way to the MA, but you could, pick and choose. It was kind of more tailored to specifically what you want to see. So that was nice. It'll be interesting to see how it lasts and how it goes after just these Daredevil shows.
Yeah. I agree.
I'll say this. I'm really annoyed that I now have to put a pin in every time I want to watch Disney Plus. And I have to, because I got four kids.
Oh, yeah.
And they could just hop over to Dad's. Not that they would, or they use their own accounts anyway, but it's just an added feature. I'm halfway through season 2 of Daredevil with my oldest son, and we're kind of going through that a little bit. But it's a minor inconvenience that I guess it's worth it, and everyone else has it too. Like, I do it on my Amazon account, and I do it on Netflix as well, so my kids can't stumble on and watch something that we don't want them to watch. So I guess it was inevitable. Again, there was kind of always this a little bit of hope that we wouldn't get that sort of content on Disney Plus, that maybe that would be over on Hulu, and Disney Plus could just be this unwalled garden where your kids could roam free and see anything they want, and you not have to worry about that. But that is not the case anymore. So it is what it is. Things change.
Yeah. I wish that, as a fan, I kind of wish that the Disney Plus was more Disney and less of that content coming in, but that's the way it is. At least we have a way that you can set it to not appear if you don't want it to. So that's a good thing.
The one thing and it was the rated MA, but the one thing I was surprised about watching Daredevil on Disney Plus is, when you go to the Marvel section, right, and it brings up all the Marvel content, and now at the very top, Daredevil, right? Now, I'm assuming that on my kids it wouldn't be there, but there's no disclaimer that, okay, this is not like the Marvel content you've seen before. And a lot of, I just imagine there's so many people like, oh, new Marvel content, click. And they're like, oh my gosh, a dude just had, got blown to pieces with a high powered sniper rifle, or this dude's just, I don't want to be too graphic, but a guy just got his head, chopped off.
That's enough. Yeah.
I mean, it happened. It is incredibly violent. And then, where is this language coming from? Why is it so dark? And I could just see so many people just not ready for that. And, unless you kind of know what's going on. And I don't know if that's, I bet customer service is dealing with a little bit of that blowback right now. I could only imagine.
Well, and even among those series, we watched Daredevil, and we dealt with the violence, and it's definitely not MCU. But then we thought, after we got through Daredevil, well, let's watch Jessica Jones, and we were like, whoa, it was another completely different level. Like we decided to not watch that. We were just shocked. It was like, this makes Daredevil look tame in areas. So, we were like, again, it's not what I expected when Disney Plus came out. But, the only reason I watched Daredevil was because in No Way Home, he made his entrance, and we were like, is this going to be a part of the continuing story? Do we need to know this to enjoy Marvel as we go forward. And it feels like he's going to be a part somewhere. And so we push through it, but yeah.
Well, it's interesting to see. And speaking of, shocked and awkward moments, let's talk about Turning Red.
You guys start.
I might turn red.
I was about to say, you guys look like you're turning red right now. But new Pixar movie. Let me ask you this: have you both seen it? Everybody's seen it, right?
Yeah.
Have you? Was it what you expected, or did you go in knowing much about it?
I just didn't. I didn't know a lot about it. It definitely seemed like. It just seemed like a 12, 13-year-old girl who's kind of just figuring herself out through school. That's what the preview kind of gave me. And that's how some of the movie was. But I do have to say, I enjoyed the movie for the most part for, Disney Plus. It's not like I paid for it. I wasn't at the movie theater. And the movie wasn't, of course, targeted to probably my age group but I did enjoy the last 45 minutes. I found very intriguing, and the action and the sequences. I did enjoy it, but that was different than the preview. The preview didn't really preview that last 45-minute climatic scene.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I think I felt. The first I've seen it twice. My wife and I watched it together, and I think the first time you're like going, is this gonna be, cringy, or is this gonna be? Am I gonna be uncomfortable in this? Is this, And so you're kind of sitting there wondering what's gonna happen. The second time, I went back through with more of a, really just looking for the things that I liked. And, there were a lot of things that I really liked, a lot of things that I really appreciated. And I didn't feel like it was geared to me. It felt very like it had a very target audience. And I didn't, but I still enjoyed it. There was a lot that I could appreciate about it. There were some things I didn't love about it. But, I mean, any movie can be that way.
Well, we'll talk about that, too. And I think we should put a little disclaimer that we are all very quick to acknowledge that we are not the target demographic for Turning Red. And we are commenting on this as people who know we are not the target demographic.
Right.
But honestly, I went in kind of blind. The only thing I knew about it was it's Pixar, and it did not get a theatrical release. And I actually think for me, that lowered my expectations a little bit. So when I sat down to watch it, I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, and it probably surpassed my expectations a little bit that I had going in. And actually, I think probably the reason it didn't get a theatrical release is because it's a little more niched to preteen, teenage, or to girls. You know what I'm saying? And that may or may not be fair, but it's not as broadly broadly marketable. Maybe that's not fair either. I don't know. But it didn't seem like the B Team. Does that make sense? I thought it was very good. I laughed loudly in several places. I thought the overall the story was relatable to everyone to some degree, but especially I work with students a lot, especially to teenage girls and moms and that relationship there. While I can't directly relate to that, I've seen that play out a lot of different ways. I have 4 boys. So David, I'm going to kind of defer to you, and JD, you have sisters on some of this as well. So I readily acknowledge my ignorance in some of this. However, just out there, I enjoyed the movie. I would give it if I were rating it on a 5 mouse ears like we normally do, I'd probably give it like a 3.5. I really did. I thought it was great. Now, there's a couple of things to set aside. Did I enjoy the movie? Who do I think it's for? Am I going to let my kids see it? And how are we going to do that? Those are other questions too. But let's get into it. What did you love about it, David?
Oh, wow. Okay. Things that I liked about it. I identified with her as the overachiever. I was like her as a kid. I was into everything, and I wanted to be the best at everything, and I wanted to I wanted to be in everything. I wanted to be the best I could be in everything that I did. So I definitely identified with that. What I laughed. I laughed. One place I laughed was when she finally she's in the middle of all this turmoil, and she's the panda, and she's hiding it all. When her mom looks under the bed and she had a B+ on her paper. I laughed out loud because, that was like, that's a big moment for her, that she has slipped from A++ down to a B+. I identified with that. And I thought a lot of the scenes, the second time I watched it, we watched it, then I watched again just while I was doing other things, and just noticing things like the city and the architecture and the temple and all the animation. I mean, that's some of that stuff's just really amazing. There were a lot of things that I liked, and I didn't laugh out loud as much as I would have liked, but there were a lot of things that I chuckled at because I could even identify with, but because of the overachiever, I could understand part of that. The mom was just so over the top. She was such I thought in all of Disney Pixar, when she takes her diary into the Daisy Mart and exposes that, I was like, man, that's like one of the most uncomfortable moments ever. Could anybody be that clueless? Could a mom be that clueless of shaming her kid in front of a crowd of people? That blew me away. There's just so many moments that were uncomfortable that I started like, gosh, is that real? I mean, I guess that really happens. That's, I think everybody has moments with their parents that can be like awkward, but she was so over the top that by the time May is hiding behind her back, you're like, well, look at the oppression she's under. Like, she can't breathe. So you're dealing with like, is it okay to tell kids to rebel against your parents? No. But then you're looking at, is it okay for that mom to be that way? No. It's like nobody's really in the right. They're just all struggling to get through it. So maybe that's the whole thing. And the only thing that I didn't like about it was that there were times I was probably confused. Like, what does that mean? What does that represent? I thought it represented this, but now it seems to be this. And she's embracing the panda, but none of the other women in her family do. So there were just times that I was confused. Like, I'm not sure what this means. I just decided, John David and I were talking, it's like, I'm just going to let it be that there was a line where I wrote this down, where Mr. Gao, when they're having the ceremony and the shaman, and he's praying and he says, guide this girl through her inner storm. And I thought maybe that's what we just leave it. This is about inner storms. Whatever your inner storm is, maybe we can all identify with that. We've all had struggles, and just let it go. Because when you try to guess and figure it out, and there were a lot of places I was kind of confused. Like, I don't know what this really means, and I'm just gonna let it go. It's about inner storms. It's about inner turmoil, pushing through, and let it go at that. Because if you read into it much, you might be wrong. I don't really know. And again, one thing we did was, after we watched the movie, we watched the Disney Plus, the making of, where they interview the team of women that made the movie, and it's all female leadership, and I mean, very strong from their perspective. So kind of hearing their stories, and that helps too, because a lot of it was it seems autobiographical. This is their stories of these women. They've all experienced these things. So I kind of looked at it like, I'm just going to learn, and I'm going to listen to what they have to say, but I'm not going to dig in too deep, because it's just too much symbolism to try to figure it all out. I love the scene at the end with the concert with the boy band on the wires and with the wings. Yeah. I thought that was. And you talked about the fact that it takes place in 2002. I thought that was like an interesting take. And excuse me, today there would be cameras everywhere. We talked about that there would be phones taking pictures, but they put it in a time where, that I did notice that there's like one girl that takes a picture with her camera when the mom comes into the arena, but it's like a film camera. It's not even a phone camera. So anyway, that's some of my thoughts. Does that make sense?
Those are you hit every base there. I was literally thinking that whole time. My favorite, the most parts that had me laughing were the boy band parts. I just thought it was hilarious. They almost had this anime type cartoonish like little spurts every once in a while. When the boy band came on, it was interesting because I've never seen that, of course, in a Pixar movie. But I did love, and I can talk about this a little more, I loved how they chose specifically Canada, early 2000s. I thought that was a very interesting, time and place to go after. For me, that was kind of I was really young, early 2000s, but it was fun to see a movie take place early 2000. That was like, oh, this is the past, like not like a current movie that took place in 2000s or the early 2000s. And to kind of see that demographic, that time period it was fun for me to watch. That was probably my favorite part, to kind of see that from a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. That I also loved that it took place in 2002, early 2000s. And like I said, it would have been a completely different movie if it were today. So actually, I think what's interesting, I think it takes elements like I do think that parents are more like that today than they probably were in 2002. And I can't really comment on like Asian culture. From what I ascertain, like maybe their parents are a little more typically like overbearing. I don't know, but I do know that these days, the helicopter parenting and just the overbearingness of what parents can do and how they make decisions for their children. I felt that kind of came through right. With it being in that time period, you had the boy band thing that I thought was masterfully done. And you had all those side jokes about all the things you could have with boy bands. The name of the band is like four something. What is it? Four something. There's five of them. And there's two guys that are just like hanging out. They're like, hey, we're in it too, and they all have their favorite, so I thought that was masterfully done. I love that the Tamagotchi, being kind of like, something kids carried around. I was a freshman in college when those things were kind of really popular. And for an English project, I once bought a Tamagotchi myself. I knew what they were, but sort of lived with it for about a month to see what it was like. It was super annoying. But I thought it kind of captured the time period. You didn't have cell phones and social media, and you didn't, know what was going on. And that scene where the mom confronts the boy in the convenience store is super awkward. And you're like, who would do that? But at the same time, here's her innocent little girl who she cannot fathom or imagine in her mind that she's ever like initiated this. This had to be put in her mind, this by somebody else, because she's a small little innocent girl, right? I do think what we're seeing, and I'll take it one step further, is it's the story of a child becoming or in her case, a girl becoming a woman, or it could be a boy becoming a man, that adolescent stage where kids begin to test the boundaries in that question of who has the autonomy. Do the parents have control, or do the kids have control? And that's really uncomfortable for grown-ups and parents, because we think of it in terms of, well, that's rebellious. But I'm telling you, every person in the history of mankind, when they get to puberty, it's this handoff of the torch of how far do kids get, when do they get to start making their own decisions? And those questions are different for everybody. Every relationship between parents and kids goes through that. There's some kids that, in the deep, I remember, dude, I drove home from church when I was like 13 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had a lot of time to myself to do. I remember we lived in Eastern Europe, and I tell my wife this all the time. Every time she doesn't want our kids to go down the block, to play with the neighbor kids. I was like, when I was 13, I was literally on the streets of Athens, Greece, wandering the town by myself when I was my oldest son's age. Right. And that was just normal. And if I was gone, I had no cell phone. I couldn't get a hold of my parents. I just showed up back at the hotel, hopefully didn't get lost, and they had to trust me that I could. But so it's like this dynamic between what is rebellion, what is allowed, and kind of what is the point where I become my own person to make my own decisions, and when do I push back and say, hey, mom and dad, no, this isn't working for me. Now, it's really uncomfortable, as someone of faith, and I don't want to promote rebellion, but I actually don't think it did so much. We did see depictions of rebellion, but nothing that I haven't been through, or that you guys haven't been through, or that every other kid hasn't been through. And I think our worry with this, and what I've seen, like the Facebook, moms and things that, and I'm sympathetic. Like, I would not, if you sat down with your 4 or 5 year old or 6 year old to watch this thinking, oh, this new Disney movie, I get it. Like, they can get lessons here. There's parental guidance, but the PG part is real for this. You need some parental guidance. But, for 13, 14, 12-year-old kids on their own, I think this is something you probably should sit down with your kids and watch and talk through this stuff. And these are, I think, honestly, I told my wife this. I was like, I think this is a movie that parents need to watch. Like, right. You need to consider these things. You need to think about these things. And, man, it was, in that regard, I have a preteen. Well, he's a teenager now. He's 13, but a kid who's going through some of these changes. And he listens. I don't want to embarrass him or divulge, but some of the outbursts and some of the emotions, and I, even though I have son, like, I've seen that, and it's just not it's an interesting. It's an interesting dynamic that I haven't seen in a movie before.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's we haven't seen this before. This isn't normal, Disney historical content. So it's awkward sometimes because it is awkward. It's an awkward stage. It's an awkward time, and everybody goes through it. And it's like Mr. Giles said, it's inner turmoil. So we're all just trying to get through it the best we can, parents and young teenagers. So it's a crazy time.
But I mean, like, hats off to Pixar, though. It's like, think of no other movie industry company can make you really feel the way that Pixar and Disney can make you feel. And like, just like a short animated movie can raise so many questions and so many thoughts, and the whys and the all these things, and pose so many good conversations and things just like that. So again, it's like, no matter what kind of expectation you had after turning red, you can't say that it didn't make you think in some way about something that you believe, or some sort of thing like that. So because of that, it's like, that's why I love Disney. That's why I think Disney sets itself apart. So again, good job, Pixar. Fun time.
It also reminded me of a little bit of Inside Out with Riley. I mean, her what she went through. We had a little bit of that there. I remember the outburst at the table where she tells her parents, like, just to be quiet. Like, she's upset because they've moved. She's lost her friends. She doesn't feel like she fits in. And I mean, man, when in that movie, when all her kingdoms are kind of crumbling, the Goofy Islands, all those things going on are crumbling. I mean, that was heartbreaking. Now, this tone is different than that. Like, this one, it was that one was so heartbreaking, and this one is more like you're kind of just stunned. It's just kind of different. It's, again, like I said, it's so big, and it's so different kind of action going on. So you don't quite feel the same thing, but still those same emotions where you go, man, it's just so tough being that age. So tough.
Absolutely. So, hey, we do this with all our movies. On a scale of 1 to 5, what do you give it? JD, you go first.
Okay, 1 to 5, Pixar scale, 5 being, the best Pixar movie?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the first time JD's done this with us, I think.
Okay, this is good. Well, let me think. So 5 would be top tier Pixar. Okay, Dustin, you talked about expectations. My expectation was low for this movie, but I actually enjoyed it more than that expectation. But as far as if you put it up to other Pixar movies, for my demographic, I don't think it would hold up. That's hard. I'd probably give it I'd probably give it right in the middle at 2.5. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's cute. Would I watch it again? I don't know, but by no means is it a bad movie.
David, how about you?
I probably would have. I would do like a 3. I would have put like when you said 3.5. I thought that probably feels pretty good. I did see an article. I wish I'd saved it here. I can't remember which magazine it was that had done a new Pixar ranking since this came out, and they had this around. Out of all the Pixar movies, they had it around 10 or 12. They had it higher than Coco. They had it higher than Monsters Inc.
Wow. With Rotten Tomatoes is 95%.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't know that I thought that. Again, like, could I see this having its own land at Disney like Monsters Inc. could, or Toy Story? I mean, those are such big stories. This feels like a smaller story to me. So for that, I would put it right in the middle. It just kind of, it was good. I enjoyed it. It's not, I don't know that it's something I would come back and watch multiple times. I'm
looking, it has an audience score of 73% and a critic score of 95%. So it's actually favorable by both, a little more by the critics.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's kind of like Brave. Brave kind of had that, it's a mom-daughter story. So if you're not in it, kind of, by going and doing those stories that are more specific, it's not always going to be something that the whole world watches over and over, unless you're kind of in that dynamic and that's your favorite story. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
You could say the same thing about Onward as well. Onward was really resonated like brothers, in that dad-son relationship a little bit, and I thought was fantastic too. Probably is kind of on the other end of this, just the kind of the two balancing acts there. Now it was more familial and dealing with loss and a completely different thing altogether. But at the same time, Pixar takes these topics and they squeeze and they wrench stuff out of them. So kudos to them. I think this is very solid offering.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Well, what's next for Pixar? Y'all know what they have another movie coming out anytime soon?
Well, June, baby, right? We got Lightyear.
Oh, that's right. Lightyear.
Big time.
That's the next one.
For that one.
That's the expectations for that will be very high.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
Established franchise. Well, speaking of expectations high, my expectations are high to finish this bracket to see who the champion is for our Disney greatest movie of all time tournament bracket. We started with 64 movies, Disney movies. We included Lucasfilms, we included Touchstone, we included Marvel, we included if Disney owns it. Other than we didn't include 20th Century Fox, but if Disney is a Disney property, then we included it, and we ranked these, we seeded these things based on all-time box office gross adjusted for inflation. And we put them all in a tournament, and we have already done round one. We refer you to episode 41. Go back and if you want to listen to round one, that was a lot of matchups. And then round two, we actually did the round of 32 and the Sweet 16 in episode 42. Go back and listen to that, and that gets us to the Elite Eight, and we're going to finish this bracket today. So are you guys ready to do this?
I'm pumped.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
I'm pumped, but I'm kind of nervous too because we've probably already eliminated so many people's favorites and a lot of my favorites. So this is where it gets really.
You're picking between your kids right now.
It's just like real life. There's people crying right now. There's teams home that should not be Kentucky, and there's teams that really are outperforming, like UNC. So
that's right. Come on.
Let's start here. We're going to go to the East region, and we've got one that held seed. We got some chalk here. The number one overall seed, the number one grossing Disney movie of all time, Star Wars, the original 1977 Star Wars. With their path to get here, it took out Inside Out, it took out Swiss Family Robinson, it took out Marvel Avengers Civil War. And then we're here, and that's how it got to the Elite Eight, and it's up against Return of the Jedi, the third movie in the franchise, and it took out Armageddon, Pirates of the Caribbean, the Black Pearl, and Monsters, Inc. to get here. So we're here in the Elite Eight matchup. This is to go to the Final Four, East region. Who wants to start out their vote and reasoning for Star Wars versus Return of the Jedi?
I can start off.
I'm gonna. All right.
Were you gonna want to start it off, or were you giving it to me? I'll take it. All right. So this is basically a discussion of, do you like how it starts? Do you like how it ends? I'm going to have to go with Return of the Jedi because for me, why I love Star Wars, a big thing that I love to watch on the screen is those lightsaber battles. I think it's what's so unique about Star Wars. You've got a lot of guns and, laser beams and a lot of different other franchises, but lightsaber is uniquely Star Wars. And I love to watch those battles. And I feel like in Return of the Jedi, that's when you get good, Luke has finally mastered the Jedi thing. He's figuring it out. You get some cool scenes there. And I just love the conclusion to the original trilogy so much. So my vote's going towards Return of the Jedi.
All right, Dustin,
All right.
You go next.
Well, for the dramatic purposes, I'll go next if you'd like me to, but I'm also Return of the Jedi, man. I love the original Star Wars, but the first one I saw was Return of the Jedi. And I agree, it kind of takes you get lightsaber battles, you get Boba Fett, you get the desert, you get the Rancor, you get Jabba the Hutt, you get so many scenes, you get the destruction of the whole thing, kind of the Emperor and Darth Vader saving his son, and there's still good in him, and kind of this is actually the ultimate episode of everything we've watched, right? Until the new trilogy. So yeah, I'm gonna say Return of the Jedi. As much as I love Star Wars, felt the first Star Wars was something iconic because it was the first thing to do it, right? It was just nobody had seen anything like it, right? So I totally get that. But the development of the characters, people have lived with them a little longer. Han Solo, you had Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, the voice James Earl Jones, and all of these incredible Jimmy D. Williams. Incredible cast that really, I think I'm going to go with Return of the Jedi.
All right. I thought you both would pick that one, so it's good. I'll give, I think that was what I was going to go with, but since you did and you already said it, I'm going to give Star Wars a vote just for being the one that started it all. I'll give it. I always think that's worth 10 extra points just for being the franchise. But I agree. I would, Return of the Jedi, probably way more action and fun to rewatch.
Awesome. All right. Return of the Jedi is in the Final Four. That's an upset, a 2-1, but an upset. Now we move to the South bracket where we have, and this is an interesting matchup, we have Snow White, who's passed the number one seed in this bracket, the number 2 overall seed. It took out The Incredibles, Lady and the Tramp, and Peter Pan, like Disney animation, all in that one bracket there. It took them all out to survive. Snow White's here. It's going up against The Lion King, a representative from the 90s. The Lion King took out Alice in Wonderland, Bambi, and then Avengers Endgame. It took out Avengers Endgame to get here.
Major
Huge
upset.
And we get the three seed, the Lion King. It's the 1 seed, Snow White. Who's going to go first? Dave, we'll let you go first on this one.
Okay, I will.
Educate us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Persuade us.
Well, no, man, these are 2 huge iconic movies. Again, Snow White, for its historical purpose, still amazes me that it's the number 1 highest grossing Disney movie adjusted for inflation of all time. It still holds it. Of course, it's had more time, but I heard somebody call it these older Disney movies like Disney legacy properties. Like they know the value of these stories. That's why I would imagine they don't want them to become dated. They want to recreate them. They want to do a live action Snow White because they want to keep people involved in this story. It's Snow White is very dated to its time. You have to be able to look past you know, this current culture and comparing it to that, or you're gonna easily default to Lion King. I think Lion King is great in many ways. There's so many things I love about it. Definitely a huge part of the Disney Renaissance. But on this one, I'm gonna go again for history and for art. That the one that started it all gets 10 extra points, because there would be no Lion King if there hadn't been a Snow White. So I'm gonna go with that one.
All right. I'm still undecided, man. I still don't know.
I'm still undecided.
I don't know what. Are you undecided for real?
Yeah, for real. I mean, again.
All right. So how about, here's the thing. I'm going to take the Lion King.
What?
And I'm going to let, okay.
No,
because and one of us has to make the case for the Lion King. So I'm going to try to make the case, and then you can decide.
Oh my gosh.
All right. I would say, your post, so Lion King came after The Little Mermaid. It came after Aladdin. Am I correct in that? It came after, was Beauty and the Beast before The Lion King as well? Okay.
So you had this Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin were all before.
Okay, so you had this momentum building up, right? And then Lion King came out. And I remember I talked about earlier in the episode, I lived in Eastern Europe for this period of time. In 94, I was in Eastern Europe. I actually saw The Lion King in a Greek movie theater with English subtitles. First time. And it was I really did like it. I didn't like it as well as Aladdin. So that's always kind of clouded what I thought, but it was huge. You cannot overstate how big this was internationally. This was a huge movie.
Yes.
The Elton John soundtrack, the soundtrack altogether, but the Circle of Life, the Elton John presence, or was it Candle in the Wind that he wrote for Princess Di? It was kind of like all of those things coalesced into kind of this cultural moment that he's involved in it. And, it was huge. It can't be overstated how big this movie was. The toys, the soundtrack, all of it. And now it has a Broadway, presence too. And it was kind of all the Disney Broadways that I know of. I mean, I've seen this one on Broadway, and it's spectacular as well. The music's great. The costumes are great. There's nothing else quite like it. It's become an iconic moment where they've had remakes now, and they've had, there's been sequels, and everybody, like we talked about, everybody who ever holds a baby from now on holds the baby up like this and pretends, it's Simba. These are Hakuna Matata is now, how did that become like, don't worry, be happy, or whatever else, that have become cultural moments. These things have kind of changed culture. Now I get Snow White has too in a lot of ways, but I'm going to make the case for, call it recency bias, although it's 30 years old, it's not recent at all, but I'm going to make the case for The Lion King for those reasons. And JD, you get to add to, take away, and then be the deciding vote here, or whether you're going classic Disney or more. Well, they're both classic, but just how you define classic. What's better?
And one thing before you vote, one thing I'll say so strong about Lion King is it has very strong presence in the park. I mean,
that's exactly
a lot of Animal Kingdom. It's never gotten the attraction that I actually thought it deserves, but it's in kite tails, it's in parades, it's in merchandising.
Exactly.
You've got the Festival of the Lion King show. I mean, it is a powerhouse of a movie, and
however, Snow White has had a strong presence in the park since day one. It's evolved into Mine Train. Actually, your parking lot, Sleepy, Happy, Grumpy, Dopey, Steve. Where do you? We're in Dumpy, Grumpy, not Dumpy.
Dumpy
7.
The 8th floor, Dumpy.
Dumpy. I like Dumpy.
Dumpy. There you go.
So,
so it definitely it feels like it's definitely the battle. I mean, both are classics. You can argue for both. It seems like it's the argument between the one that started it all, or this golden child, has influence in every industry of Disney parks, soundtrack. We haven't even really talked about the soundtrack that much. I mean, anybody who knows a Disney song, chances are it's either Aladdin or Lion King. So it's not just influence; it dominates.
But there was a time when those Snow White songs were just as popular. It's just
was that Whistle While You Work?
Yeah. Someday my prince will come.
Yeah,
but again,
those are big.
We're talking songs that are 90 years old compared to, songs that are 30 years old. And I think where it also comes down to is Rotten Tomatoes. Probably, I didn't double check, but the critics probably score Snow White a little higher, just because of historical, and the audience is going to go with Lion King every time.
Yeah,
always.
But that's what you're scoring, though. It's like, are you scoring relatable? I mean, I think that's a fair thing to judge a movie based off of relatable. I mean, yes, you look at Snow White. Has it really stood the test of time? I mean, every time we've said something good about Snow White, it's been because it's so historic, because it's so old. And it's like, so that's the exact argument. It's like, does the fact that it's so old and that it started everything make it the best when there's another movie that's also known as one of the best, and it also has one of the best soundtracks. It also has one of the best influences at the park. It also has shows all over the world. I mean, again, I don't know. That's the argument.
It's nostalgia. There are more people alive in the world who are nostalgic for Lion King than there are people that are nostalgic, because times have moved on. And in 30 more years, there will be another Disney movie that people are more nostalgic for than they are Lion King and Aladdin. Those things will be old. They're going to be 2D animation. They're going to be archaic in 30 years because they're going to be 60 years old.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. There's a cultural shift.
All right, we're in overtime.
All right. Well, the thing is, you guys can blame me, but just blame yourselves because you put this decision on the youngest guy to make the nostalgic decision. So I've got to go with Lion King. It's got, again, I've been saying it this whole time, it has the most influence. When people think Disney, the average person, I'm thinking the average person, also the Disney fan, I think you're more likely to say Lion King. People would enjoy to watch Lion King more than Snow White if you were just going to sit on the couch.
I agree.
I mean, on all these scales, it seems like Lion King wins, except just impact on the Disney company, which again is a fair argument. But to me, I'm going over the quantity of different things for Lion King.
Right. It's again, one thing I do think was so great about Snow White is the simple storytelling. You've got like 10 characters, and in an hour and 15 minutes, you go through all these emotions. You've got the humor. You've got the villain, who is still one of the scariest villains that gives kids nightmares of all time. And Lion King is just not even the same formula. It's a completely different thing. I mean, a way bigger cast of characters. One thing that's really interesting about Lion King is that, you had this formula going with Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin, where there was all these couple movies. And then Lion King just comes out in 94, and it's about that too, but it's a much bigger kingdom they're not princess movies, and they're not. Yeah. So it was all animals, all animal cast. So that was a big shift. And it could have been, people could have said, we want more Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin, but they went with a different formula. So yeah, I think I expected Lion King to win. But I think that was a good matchup.
Yeah. Well, Lion King moves on to the Final Four. We've got a matchup now in the Final Four between Return of the Jedi and Lion King coming up. Stay tuned for that. But first, we got to get over to the West region, where the Avengers, the original first Avengers movies, is up against Aladdin. The 10-seed Aladdin versus the 4-seed Avengers. Both of them had some upsets to get here. Aladdin beat Cinderella. Aladdin beat Iron Man. Already took out Iron Man. Now it's up against the rest of the Avengers, right? And Aladdin beat Beauty and the Beast to be here. The Avengers, coming out here, took out Toy Story, took out Star Wars The Last Jedi, and the Jungle Book live-action remake to get here. So now they're up against each other. Who goes to the Final Four? Do you want me to go first on this one?
Gosh,
I wish we were comparing Aladdin to Toy Story. I wish Toy Story had.
Still in. I know Toy Story got a bum draw. It's like the
But again,
like the SEC
we were
year
looking
just out.
Yeah, Toy Story is the one that's just blatantly missing from the Elite Eight, and it's going to be missing to me from the top 4. So
I'm going to vote Aladdin
first. Okay.
I'm going to vote Aladdin for overall Disneyness, right? And just the still number one song on the Billboard charts, A Whole New World. Excellent cast. We forget about Gilbert Godfrey is a voice in that. Robin Williams. I mean, these are like an era bygone of just incredible comedic actors that are involved in this. It's just a masterpiece. It's a work of art. I love Avengers. You guys know how much I love Avengers, but I think both Infinity War and Endgame are better than this one too. So I'm going with Aladdin.
Okay, because you said that it's a cross between the two. I'm going to say Avengers, and my case for the Avengers is it's almost like the Snow White for the Marvel movies, where it's the one that started it all. I mean, you get that first glimpse of Thanos in the post-credit scene. Everyone's favorite – I mean, I say everybody. Everyone I kind of talk to and that I talk to about Marvel, they say like that original 6 Avengers is just that core, nostalgic, their favorite Marvel superheroes. And I remember just laughing so hard in the movie theater when Loki gets slammed by Hulk and he says, "Puny God." Like, I just remember just laughing my head off. So I'm going to say Avengers.
That's great. And I have your quote down. Avengers is the Snow White of Marvel movies. I'm going to tweet that out.
There you go. The one that started it all.
Man.
Uh-oh.
So if I go with Aladdin, we're going to have Aladdin going up against Lion King.
No, they're on the opposite side of the bracket.
Well, unless they win the
eventually-
championships.
Well, you're assuming
Eventually.
the Lion King wins.
Yeah.
Oh no, I would say we'll have 2 animated movies in the final 4.
Okay.
If I vote Avengers, we'll have an animated movie, a Star Wars movie, and an Avengers movie all in the final 4. And a Marvel movie.
I see what you're doing here. You're checking out the future matchups.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
You're like the TV guys are like, we really need Duke and Kentucky and UNC to all be in the Final Four so people will watch this thing.
Yeah, we need Michigan in the tournament.
Yeah.
There you go.
Man, this is a tough one. I agree with John David. Avengers, I think, made it this far because even though it's not Endgame or Infinity War, it's still just such an enjoyable movie all around. To me, it's one of the top, if not the top, in just enjoyable Avengers movies. I mean, Marvel movies. But Aladdin, I mean, for Disneyness, I love animation so much. It's hard to not give it to Aladdin.
This is killing you. It's killing you.
Well, I'm really split. Like, I want to give it to Avengers because I want a Marvel movie in the top.
The stakes are high. The stakes are high.
You can't be the one that takes Aladdin out. I love it. The decision. What's he going to choose?
But see, this
is close. We're back and forth.
The Aladdin and Lion King is my kids' nostalgia. It's a little. I'm more nostalgic for things a little bit older, so my nostalgia is all out. This is tough because I'm not feeling either one of those that strongly because they're neither are nostalgic for me. They're contemporary for me. So Aladdin was what seed was Aladdin?
They were a 10 seed. They're
Wow.
the Cinderella. They're the Cinderella story.
Can I flip a coin?
How's that? Did that get your nostalgia going?
Yeah, it's just Aladdin and Cinderella.
Cinderella. Yeah, you can flip a coin. I mean, that's how half these. A bad call at the end of the game.
Buzzer
You guys
beater.
almost lost. You guys, UNC almost lost because the guy got thrown out.
Yeah.
25-point comeback there.
Yeah.
All right, heads.
We're going to the coin toss. The coin toss. Coin toss.
Heads, Aladdin. Tails, Avengers.
All right.
2 out of. Oh, here we go.
What did I say?
You said heads Aladdin. Heads Aladdin.
Aladdin wins.
Oh,
What?
wow.
Wow.
I think I got to go with Avengers.
Oh, okay. All right.
They replayed the call. They looked at after checking the monitors.
Dude, this is the best, but that's a buzzer. That is a buzzer beater right there. So Avengers moves on, the 3 seed, split decision, which brings us to our final 4 game. And it is Mary Poppins versus The Empire Strikes Back. And I know what David's picking because of how he's moving here. So, so go ahead. You go first, David.
Well, because Empire is already represented, yes, I'm going to go with Mary Poppins because I want to see her wipe up everybody with her carpet bag in the final 4.
There you go.
That's awesome. And I love David is the TV exec amongst us.
Dang.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know I want to pick Empire Strikes Back, but I can make a strong case for Mary. I am going to pick Empire Strikes Back because I'm a bigger Star Wars fan. It's the best of all the Star Wars movies. It actually was nominated for Best Picture. The most in-depth performances that the actors gave, I think, it's the most compelling of all the Star Wars. Other than Rogue One and Return of the Jedi, it's like right there for me personally. But I think critics, it's the highest ever critically acclaimed Star Wars movie as well. So I'm going to pick Empire Strikes Back, and it all falls on JD here.
Gosh. So the thing is, I mean, yeah, Dustin, you just said it. You could go either way. I mean, you could plead the case pretty strong on both sides. I've always heard people say critic-wise, Empire Strikes Back is the best. But again, I've always preferred Return of the Jedi. That's my decision. And I know Mary Poppins has such a big impact, and it really symbolizes a lot of what Disney is. So it's tough.
You have a soundtrack. I mean, you have the John Williams soundtrack versus what are the songs? You got, was it Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious?
Yeah.
Culture. I mean, seriously, like
Step in Time.
The sounds of culture.
Spoonful of Sugar.
Spoonful of Sugar. Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's why. Okay, so
Chim Chim Tree, which won the Oscar.
Yeah, it's got Vin Van Dyke. So I think I'm going to go with what I was going to say beforehand. Honestly, Dustin, with what you said, it almost had me flip it right there. But I think I'm going to go with my gut, which was Mary Poppins for this one.
Wow, that was a great matchup, though. I mean,
yeah,
all these
really
have been really good.
If
Mary Poppins
Empire
moving on.
If Empire had won, I was going to go back and change my vote for Aladdin. And put Aladdin back in. That's still the hardest one to me.
Well, this is good. I mean, Empire is actually, that was an upset because Empire was the 2 seed out there. So Mary Poppins moves on a split. All those were split. They should have been close, as we want those to be. Mary Poppins is now up against Avengers and Return of the Jedi and The Lion King. Those are our final 4 teams of all of this bracket, 64 movies, and we've got Return of the Jedi, Lion King, Avengers, Mary Poppins. That's a good foursome right there.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's really solid.
Y'all ready to get to the final 4?
I would just really love to see.
You need a minute.
I would love to see this actually play out on a screen with Mary Poppins and Darth Vader and the Hulk and Simba.
Yeah, I would love to see like the really dramatic camera shot where they're like holding the ball, and they're just looking at the camera. You know what I'm saying? The promo B-roll kind of stuff. I like to see Mary Poppins and all of them just sort of standing there with their graphics.
She does does a dunk.
Yeah,
she floats up on her umbrella and like slams dunks.
Gets that umbrella.
Well, let's go here first. Let's go for the first side, first game. Return of the Jedi versus Lion King. Return of the Jedi versus the Lion King.
Gosh,
I'm gonna say the Lion King.
Okay. All right.
I'll say Return of the Jedi.
Oh, dadgum.
I'm split.
You guys jumped in quick because you didn't want to.
Exactly. But let's elaborate on it a little bit. For me, it's tough. when we're doing this bracket of really all of Disney. I mean, this is a Disney scale because it goes both ways. Like, yes, I definitely love Star Wars more as a fan, but I'm thinking about the fan base, and it's like, if you're not a Star Wars fan, have you seen Return of the Jedi? You know, it's like, I just don't know. Like, that's my crosshairs. Like, if you just semi can understand Star Wars, you love this movie. You know, that's a tough thing. That's a tough thing.
You know, I think you're right about that. You might have just won me over because I was going to pick Return of the Jedi, but you just said there's a whole bunch of people that have never seen that and never will and never want to.
Yeah.
Everybody's seen The Lion King.
Yeah, which is tough.
Well, they both have huge box office.
That's true. But the thing about Star Wars is like guys like me that go 5 times, you know, and the curiosity of it. No, I take that back because there are people that haven't seen The Lion King too, right? You know, some people don't watch cartoons. And I could say, well, you've been influenced by The Lion King. You know who Kuna was, but you've been influenced by Star Wars too. May the Force be with you. The John Williams soundtrack. Like, both of these are like monsters. They're monsters. I mean, literally, the Lion Kings are monsters, and there are monsters in Return of the Jedi too. Thinking of the Rancor, so dadgum. And if I were to go like the Disney-ness of it, it would be Lion King. But and to me, like, I prefer Aladdin. I prefer like 2 or 3 other Disney cartoons to Lion. It's not my favorite of all of them. Return of the Jedi is my favorite of the Star Wars movies. So I'm going to go Return of the Jedi.
Wow.
I'm going to go Return of the Jedi.
Wow. Yeah, the bracket really is the crazy aspect.
Yeah. The Lion King, I know, is a huge fan favorite. It just was never my favorite. I like almost every other movie in the 90s a little bit more than that. And always amazed, like Hercules, even Hunchback, I thought had an amazing soundtrack and one of the most terrifying villains of all. And Lion King always felt like it was I don't know. A lot of people love it. I agree. It just was never exactly my favorite, but I could recognize, like Snow White, there's a part of it that I can recognize how great it is, even if it's not exactly my favorite. But Return of the Jedi, I kind of expected that was going to win.
Really,
I knew that one of those Star Wars movies was going to make it all the way. And if when Star Wars and Avengers or one of these wins, I think that we need to come back and do a bracket with all animation.
Okay. No.
I don't know how we're going to seed it.
We should do that.
I don't know how, and we talked about doing that, but we couldn't find records for all the animated movies. This was all created by box office sales. That's how we decided what the 1 seeds and the 16 seeds were.
Well, the hard thing now is, you know, that's changed forever because box office sales are skewed. The last 3 years, there haven't been any. So
right. So
hardly.
I mean, it would be. I don't know how we're going to figure out how to put these in order, unless we
could go by like it's critic scores, like Rotten Tomatoes, but then you don't have that for like the old stuff either. But we'll figure that out. That's a great idea.
It's there. It's there. I mean, the old stuff's there. And critics, some of the old stuff that's obscure is critically highly rated, but audience is very low rated. Like Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros, all the war era movies, they have pretty high scores on Rotten Tomatoes.
All right. Well, we're going to the other side of the bracket. We got the Avengers against Mary Poppins.
Gosh. Well, I'll start. Oh, dang. I'll start off with my same argument I've been saying this whole time. Avengers, it's that sweet spot. Dad, you said it right. It's the most pleasing to just watch, rewatch. You can laugh. It's got really cool action scenes. Introduces some of the best characters the MCU has. Rewatch it. It's that beginning piece of the puzzle that really set the pace for everything else that is to come. I love it. People love it. Avengers.
And it's the Snow White of Marvel movies.
It's the Snow White of Marvel. The one that started it all. I love it.
Lion King is the Shakespeare of Disney movies.
Yeah. There we go. Keep it going. What's Mary Poppins? I guess it's just Mary Poppins and Mary Poppins.
It's practically perfect in every way.
Yeah.
Of Disney movies.
Well, Mary Poppins is the Duke of the tournament because they're about to get bounced. Because I'm voting Avengers.
Wow. See ya, Mary Poppins.
Now, and again, it's not really fair. When you get here, everybody's good. There's a case to be made for everything.
Yeah.
And I was going to wait around until David made the case for Mary Poppins first. But, you know,
I knew when we started this, it would end up being a Star Wars movie against a Marvel movie. I wasn't sure which Marvel movie, but I knew that I was like, Disney's not going to win. It's going to be these other franchises.
You're right. And it's not. You're right. This isn't true Disney. That's a great point. But we included them, and Marvel had like 6 or 7 entries. It's like, you know, one of these conferences to get all these teams in. Star Wars had almost 9 entries into the tournament. So the odds were one of them was going to squeak out, depending on no matter what.
Yeah, and box office wise, the Marvel movies, the Star Wars movies that are the best, also had the highest grossing, you know, money wise. So it's like, I mean, yes, I always talk about Hercules is my favorite animated Disney movie. It's not on this list, so we can't really plead the case for all of the.
It's in
best.
the NIT.
Yeah, it's in NIT this year. Next year, hopefully, we'll get some better recruits, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Well,
David, you got to vote though.
You
got to give your token vote.
I'll give. Okay,
Classic.
I'll just. You know, it's not because it's my favorite, but I'll give it to Mary Poppins just because I'm going to vote Disney in this one. But Avengers is my favorite. It really is my favorite Marvel, I think, of all. So
had I voted Mary Poppins, what would you have voted?
I probably would have flipped a coin.
Okay.
You know, again, it's like I wish that you know, we had all agreed on one animated movie that was our exact favorite, that it went up against all these others, but we're actually more like-minded in Star Wars and Avengers than we are probably in Disney.
I wish Kentucky wouldn't have played St. Peter's now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
but no, I'm with you.
And the one
that's the beauty of a bracket. The beauty of a bracket is just the randomness of it, and man, it makes you think about things in a completely different way.
And you know, the one thing is, you know, I love individual movies, but Star Wars and Avenger and Marvel are such big franchises, and the Avengers is a huge franchise just on its own, and that's why the one that's missing here is Toy Story. Like that is equally as big. You know, Aladdin is not a land. It has its place, but it's not Harry Potter. It's not as big as those stories and those. You know, so it's actually the franchises are winning. All right.
Yeah.
I want to see what you guys do here.
Final game, man.
For you to
this
flip a
is
coin?
amazing. You've got Luke versus, you know, Tony Stark. You've got Han Solo versus, actually probably Han Solo versus Iron Man. They're kind of more equivalents. You got Luke versus who would be the Luke equivalent? Captain America, I'd say. And you've got Chewie versus Hulk.
Princess Leia and Black Widow.
Leia and Black Widow. This is like the showdown for the ages, you know?
It really is.
Chewbacca and Groot.
There you go.
That works too. So this is really hard. I'm gonna make the case for Star Wars Return of the Jedi because I have a feeling where we're going here. But I'm gonna make I do think that culturally Star Wars has impacted culture far more than Marvel has to this point. They're both comic book culture, you know, so they're both like appeals to the same type of person. But I do think that kind of Star Wars penetrated deeper faster. We had the toys first. Like Marvel is a newer phenomenon that has been made great because of some incredible storytelling. Star Wars has had hit and misses, you know, through the years. Let's just be honest about it. Some of it hasn't been as great as others, but this is the great part. This is the great part. This is the Snow White of Star Wars.
There you go.
No, so I'm going to make the case for Return of the Jedi. It looks great. It's amazing how in that span of from 1977 to 1983, how much better the movie looks than the original Star Wars too. Just how much things had progressed that it's a much more beautiful movie. The technology, I think, is a lot better in Return of the Jedi than it was back just in 77. They were doing some incredible things. So I'm going to say Return of the Jedi, and then I'm going to kick it off, throw it over to JD.
Okay.
Because I love seeing David squirm over there.
Great points. Again, I'm repping my Star Wars shirt right now. I love Star Wars so much. And that is the big question of franchise-wise. Again, we're going to get to the movie, but franchise-wise, Star Wars, that original trilogy is just like cinematic, really good. Like, as close as you can really get to perfection for its time and things such as that. So good. Again, so beautiful to look at with a great storyline, great characters. But then when I go to the other side, I go to the Marvel side. I'm just such a fan of the way that Marvel has done things where they've planned it out so well. And I keep bringing it up because I love it so much, where they have this Avengers movie and they know what they're going to do 15 movies from there. Like, just so far out, so well planned. And it's a good plan, one that brings people together. Again, I love going to these Spider-Man movies and seeing people who don't even care about superheroes, don't care about even really Spider-Man, and they're getting into the all the different aspects of what Marvel is. And that brings people together. And that's what movies are about. That's what I think Disney's really about. It's just bringing people together and giving people something to relate. And again, Avengers is the one that started it all. Brought my friends together on soccer tournament, laughed, cried, through it all.
Don't
I'm
you
going to
do
go
it.
with
Don't you do
Avengers.
it.
Avengers.
No.
Yes.
I knew that was happening. And you make a great point about how well the Avengers movie was woven and a plan was in place, because you cannot say that about Star Wars. There was, maybe there. There was a plan. He did plan the prequels. It was episodes 4, 5, and 6, but just the execution wasn't quite probably. I think pretty objectively not as well done as Marvel.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's the biggest critique. Yeah. Here we go.
But we're not. But the Star Wars franchise is not the thing competing. Right. It's Return of the Jedi. Right. Against the Avengers.
Against the Snow White of Marvel.
Well, can we put it off for 1 week and let me go back and watch these movies both one more time?
Do you want to do that for real?
Do we need a cliffhanger?
We could leave a cliffhanger. Everybody's spent an hour and a half with us to get to this point. But why not? It only take, to give us something. Why not? David's going to watch. Okay. You want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So David is going to watch The Avengers and Return of the Jedi this week, and he's going to report back next week to make his final decision on who will be crowned the 2022 all-time Disney movie bracket champion.
Wow.
And you guys can change your votes too, maybe, if you want.
No. We're locked in. This is all on you, man.
I'm sure of my answer.
All right.
I love it.
I'm going to watch them. I think to be fair, I need to watch them again because they're both so good. I don't know that I have a favorite, so I'm going to watch them again.
Okay. I'm going to get this posted quickly so all of our listeners can chime in and try to sway David and make some great points for both. So this is why we love Disney, because of these arguments and this fandom that kind of crosses paths in all these incredible ways. We would love to hear from you. And if you have a rooting interest in this, you can call David at 615
555-5555.
So please get with us on Instagram, Twitter, contact us through whyilovedisney.com and let us know what you think. Tell us where we messed up in this bracket, and we cannot wait to hear from you next week.
And
anything else to say and add?
I really want to hear if what people would have picked for their animated, like if animation had won, if a Disney movie had won, what would people have wanted?
I can already hear angry emails saying, these aren't Disney movies. These aren't Disney movies. And I get that. Yeah. I totally get that. But the rules were set at the very beginning. We seeded these like it is. It is how it is. They got the draws they got. You don't always like how it ends up, but sometimes Duke wins a championship and none of us are happy.
Oof.
Oof. That's right.
if you're a Duke fan, we don't want to offend you. We're glad you listen too, but it's just how we feel, man. It's just how we feel. Mm-hmm. So, anything else to add? You want to say anything, JD?
Fun
happy
stuff
with the bracket?
Yeah, definitely. I've loved doing this bracket. Definitely want to do a Marvel bracket. I think we'll have a lot of fun with that. So much to do soundtrack wise. I think it's really interesting, and it's making me think a lot about what my favorites are. It's really fun.
Awesome. I love it. Well, until next time, we'll see you.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
good one.